Hi, welcome to Experimental Sunday. Today we're going to be doing some experimentation with sound quality. Let's get started. Asterisk. So let's talk about sound quality and what that means from a sampling perspective. For most of us who are using samples and recording samples in, say for instance, like when I record in things for my standalone setup, I'm using pure audio, meaning transfer directly from a keyboard or some other exterior or external device into the Force. So my preference would be to have that be as clean as possible without a lot of extra noise. The Force is actually, it has a very high bit rate. It's 32-bit floating point, and the analog to digital converter is 32 point at 44.1 kilohertz, and the digital to analog conversion back is 32-bit as well, and also supporting 44.1 kilohertz. Now, what that means to me is that what I put in is going to be as good a quality as it is when I dump it back out. It's not going to have a lot of extra noise added by circuitry, which is what I kind of really want. I don't want to try to filter out a lot of extra noise when I'm doing my mixes. So having it be already in a digital process really is helpful to me personally. Now, the MPC line, from reading the manuals, they are 24-bit, and their frequencies they support are 44.1, 48, and 96 kilohertz. And that's both the analog to digital and digital to analog conversion. But the overall bit support is 32-bit floating point. So what that means is it's all digital. So you're getting like really good quality sampling when you're using the sampler. Now, Akai has addressed the sound quality thing. And I think maybe when they initially switched over the platform for the MPCOS, they realized that there was going to be probably some complaints in the sound quality. So they created these emulations that allow you to turn your machine into an older sounding machine. Now, modeling is nothing new, especially to the guitar realm. They have taken modeling to a whole new level. We're at the point now where most guitarists, including myself, we don't need to buy stacks and stacks of speakers and amps, because we can buy like a simple thing like the DSP quad core Cortex digital processing unit, and have access to just about any amp, any cabinet that's ever been made. So modeling is nothing new. Maybe people who are not really familiar with emulation technology, but it's been out there for a very long time. What I'm hoping though is they only have a few models available. I've noticed that they took a sampling and saw that the MPC3000, the 60, and the SP1200 were the most popular machines at the time when they originally created the emulations. Maybe they need to go back and maybe just kind of add a sampling of all the machines instead of just a few, because there's so many machines from the past that people have an ear for, that may be beneficial to them to go back and just do some better modeling to emulate those sounds. And I think that would probably satisfy a lot of people, and also do videos and talk about the technology and how it was developed and where it's going. again, emulation has been around for a very long time. It's just kind of where we are from a technological standpoint. If you look at how those keyboards and drum machines were made back in the 80s and 90s, we're talking about Stone Age. We're talking about when the technology was just being developed. So a lot of the circuits and things that were developed back then are no longer in development anymore, and the components and parts are no longer available. So it would be 100% impossible to try to recreate that entire spectrum of products into a new machine. And believe it or not, even the companies like Behringer don't necessarily recreate 100% down to the nuts and bolts every single component and circuit part. What they do is they model it based upon a lot of the diodes and circuitry component parts. They try to get as close as possible to the original sound using voltage and how they understand how voltage is affected by different transistors on the boards to be able to emulate the sound of the original device. So you just because you see another company creating clones of something, and under the hood, it may look and sound like the original, but it's not 100% the original. It's not. A lot of the components and parts that were developed back then are not even made anymore, and or they've improved upon them in a way that they're no longer being manufactured because that technology has been superseded by something new. So let's just kind of look at that and understand where we are from a technological standpoint. It would be the equivalent of like in a comparison for us trading our current cars in for an old Ford Model T car. Who would in their right mind would want to do that? I definitely wouldn't, because those cars were like some of the first cars ever made, and they had no power steering to begin with. Can you imagine driving a car with no power steering? And a lot of the creature comforts that we're used to today, those things did not exist then. And I just can't even think about getting in something like that and trying to deal with it on a daily basis. And that's kind of the logic that you have to put into thought processes about why things are changing and where we're going from a technological standpoint. It's not feasible from a financial standpoint, and it's technologically impossible. Let's just be real. All right, so let me just kind of show you these emulations, and I've made like a little demo showing what it sounds like when I've used them. Now, I'm not used to making music that sounds like this. So when I made this track, I had to take that into consideration, because when you start adding noise to your overall sound, it really affects your transients, and it affects it in a way that you really have to be used to hearing it that way, or you have to get used to hearing it that way. So I've put my machine in a very downgraded state for the past few days so that I can get used to what it sounds like and try to mix in that manner. And I personally don't like it because it doesn't give me a real idea of what the thing that it affects the most is the 808s, the kicks, and the snares are highly affected. My hi-hats, I was able to like really tweak them a little bit to get them to not be as trashy. But the real heavy, thick sounds are affected in a really serious way. And it's very harmonic, number one. It's very transient touching, like all of the high-end information is touched, making it even more striking, like very punchy, which is not necessarily good in some manners. Some cases you have to really dial back some of the punch, which I normally would do like in my post-production phase. So I'm used to doing a lot of the sound repair and or mixing stuff in the mix, like the post-production phase, and having to try to do some of that ahead of time is kind of different, and it made for like a really difficult time making this track. So that's kind of I'll just show you what I did. All right, so first let me just show you how to put the machine in that mode. So it's under Preferences and it's under General. And right now I have it on None. I'm gonna turn it to, come on buddy. We're gonna make it an MPC3000 right now. So that changes the way that all of the audio sounds going outbound. Now, the other thing I did was I changed my recording from being 24-bit to being 16-bit. So I'm going to do that as well. So right now, see it's under Audio and Export. My audio bit recording is 16, and again, the choices are 24 and 16. And I can bounce out in that bit depth as well, or I can bounce out in 24. So those are the two things that make a difference. So let me go back here to this track. Oh, I got the master on. All right, so here is the track, and let me just first show you. I did record in manually a piano, and again, since my my bit depth is in 16, my recording in is definitely affected in a great way. I was using the Keyscapes new felt piano. Was using the dark one, so let me just kind of play that. Okay. The next thing I had in here is my drums, and it's going to be a kick and a snare and some hi-hats. Let me bring all those in, and also an 808. So these three things were the hardest for me to kind of blend together. I still am having issues with blending the 808 and the kicks to get them to be not as mushy sounding. I'm used to having separation in the way that things sound. When things have noise on them, they all kind of sound the same to me. And it's hard for me to like adjust where they are in the frequency spectrum. But when the sounds and strikes are kind of the same, it's really difficult to mix them. So let me just show you. So the thing I noticed right off the gate is my 808. Normally my 808s I use the mini D, and I don't play the same key. I alternate between keys. So there's some harmonic elements, melodic elements with my 808s. With this turned on and it being dirty, it's really hard for me to tell what it sounds like. So again, it's like it affects things that are very punchy to begin with in a major way. And again, my kicks and my snare, which is not a snare right now, it's the finger snaps. The finger snaps, it's because they're high in information, they're not affected as much. Again, the hats, I was able to tune them to be a little bit higher so they're not trashy. The other thing I added was a sample. This sample has a lot of mid-range information in it. And I'm also using the new Delay Pro with it. So I've got like the Delay Pro effect in there on that. So I've got it doing some, hold on, let me go in there. So I've got it doing some diffusion and some modulation, and it's using the grainy effect. So it's doing like a very oddball kind of loop, but it doesn't complete the loop, which is what I was after. When you put it all together, it gives it a very kind of melodic sound. It's really funny when I listen to it. It's very harmonic to sounding to me, and kind of it creates a vibe. It does create a vibe. Now, if I was doing this on a regular basis and I was into this kind of sound, then I would probably leave my machine in this mode and just work around it and get used to the harmonics of that it's adding and the noise it's adding to the sounds that I'm bringing in. Now, the thing that I would hate is if the sound that I was bringing in had an issue already. It would mean that I would have to have very clean samples coming in that are not affected by something else already, so that when I bring them into the machine, they're not the addition of the extra harmonics and noise that are added with this emulation don't affect it even more. So that would be my fear of leaving it in that mode. From there, let's go back. I thought I actually had added some reverb to the piano, but I guess I didn't. Let me just play for you what it sounds like all together. So basically what it sounds like to me, it sounds like a blown speaker. That's the way that the kicks sound to me in this mode. So it sounds like the speakers are blown out, but they're just kind of hanging in. They're hanging in there when you try to play something through them. That's exactly what it sounds like to me. It reminds me of that sound. And the 808s, again, they don't have, you don't hear as much of the melodic melody in it, which is, again, if you're into this style, then this is a desirable sound, and it's probably cool because you're used to working with that overall sound. But for somebody like me who's used to working with things that have a specific melody that adds as a melodic effect to something else that's playing, this is not me. So that's just my take on the sound quality things that I've been kind of monitoring. I started out on the MPC Live, or the MPC Touch rather, when I first got interested in these machines, these DAWless machines. So I'm not a stranger to the MPC at all. When I saw that they started developing the Force, and because of its workflow, that attracted me more to want to jump into this style of machine versus the MPC. From a technological standpoint, what I've seen with my own eyes is that a lot of the technologies that Akai is building into the Force is being transferred into the MPC, and a lot of the sampling technologies and old school things that were part of the MPC have been ported over into the Force. So it's like the best of both worlds is what I see with this machine. I'm pretty sure at some point it looks like they're heading towards some sort of convergence between the two machines, because if you're following any of the stuff that happens on Facebook, if you go to the warranty voiders for the Akai Force, you'll see that they found a lot of hidden screens in the Force's software that shows a lot of the MPC technologies that are being ported over into the Force, which would allow us to have a convergence between the two. So I think I'm going to make a prediction. I think that eventually what we're going to see is this mixer is going to be ported over into the MPC line, as well as I think we're going to eventually see the arranger mode. I think that's going to be ported over as well. I think because of all of the commentary over the years that Akai has received from the public regarding their products, those are some of the pain points that most people tend to complain about, is that there's not a linear arranger, and also the mixing portion of it is lacking. So that's just my prediction, honestly, that I see that's going to happen. I think having a convergence of both products into a singular OS where they don't have to like manage from a development standpoint 2 separate OSs is a win for them as well. It makes their development time a lot more streamlined between the products. From a business standpoint, I could see that being a deal for them. But that is all I have. Again, I just kind of wanted to kind of delve into some of the sound quality stuff, and also do some experimentation with my Force so that I can kind of understand the emulation stuff as well and how it works with the Force, and also with the MPC line, because again, we are all kind of moving towards being one kind of operating system, which is the OS, the MPCOS. Even though this is a 64 pad machine, a lot of the technologies that are in it are showing up in the Force or showing up in the MPC line. So that's my 2 pennies, and that's all I've got. And I'll see you guys on the next one.